All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Comic book radio in the daytime. Always feels a little weird to me, but here we are. It is 1 o'clock Eastern on September 19th. This is Tuesday, episode 73 of Comic Book Radio. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. Today my guest, look at that, is Jimmy Reyes. And we're going to be talking about his book, Dragon Rage, but I also want to pick his brain about myths, legends, folklore of dragons throughout history. He seems like he knows a bunch. Whenever I've seen him on shows, been on shows with him, he seems like a dude who's well versed. So I want to pick his brain about that. Before we get started, I want to say hello to Dear Man's YouTube. What's up, Dear Man? Reverend Saber is in the house as well. What's up? We got John here. Hey, John, how's it going? Colt King in the house as well. What's up, Cole? Golden Tree TV is here as well. What's up? Thank you for being with us today. Shane, how's it going, my friend? Says, I love that Rocky quote. Me too. Me too. Josh Lamb says, great opening. There we go. Yeah. I'm working on another one, but I like this one. We'll see. This one won't get retired or anything like that, but, you know, mix it up every now and then. Paul, how's it going, Paul? Hope you're doing good. Says, what do all loyal lunchtime listeners have in common? A touch of the madness. Yeah, there you go with the Macho Man, cup of coffee in the big time. Rick Joseph, how's it going, Rick? If you need a great letterer, go to Rick Joseph. He's a good letterer. Great letterer. Good. Lieutenant Hughes, what's up? Says, this is early. I know, right? I know. It feels weird. Sometimes, you know, we do this, though. Rest of the week is 9 o'clock. Today's the only 1 o'clock show. All right, so without further ado, let's bring him on. The man of the hour, the one and only Mr. Jimmy Reyes. What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, you know, I wanted to make sure, since it's early in the morning, to be pepped up, have energy. So I made sure I'm having my morning coffee.
Very nice. What is that exactly?
It's mineral water.
There you go.
But it looks like a little malt drink or something, right? Like,
yeah, it's fancy looking.
It's bottled tequila, you know, vodka. I don't know.
Man, oh
yeah,
man.
It's mineral water imported from Mexico. You know, the first place. What do you think of where do you want your water from in the first place? It's
Always.
Mexico, right?
Yeah, it gets me running.
Gets you running, exactly. Keeps you on a regular schedule.
Exactly. You know. When you really want to start the day with a bang, have some water from Mexico.
Yeah, you're not living on the edge until you're drinking water from Mexico. You know?
Shane says it's nice timing for me as it's 6 p.m. Yeah, 6 p.m. over there. A lot of that's the thing. Usually a lot of the guests on the show when it's a 1 o'clock show are overseas, usually in the UK or beyond. But Jimmy is hailing from where today?
Well, thankfully, I'm not in the beyond anymore. I was almost there not too long ago, but I made it back. I'm in Texas now.
Wonderful. Well, yeah. That's yeah.
I mean, honestly, you know, the doctors were like, "Oh my God, you know, your heart is failing on you. We don't know if you're gonna make it." And then they tell me, "Hey, you pulled through, you survived." And I leave the hospital and I exit out to Texas. That's 180 degrees at 8 p.m. at night. You know what I mean?
You're like, why'd you bring me back? You bastards.
No,
man, oh man. Jimmy, did you have a near-death experience at all? Any kind of out-of-body stuff going on?
Well, I tell everybody that, you know, I before the heart failure, I was a good artist. I was okay. And then I went over the other side, saw bright light. In the middle of that bright light, a golden pencil was hanging right there for my reach. I grabbed it. Came back with some extremely talent and just new talent and abilities.
God-given.
God-given. Yeah.
Wow, man.
I'm a man on a mission from God. I'm here to bring you guys.
All jokes aside, you doing good, or is everything going well?
Yeah. My heart failure, honestly, my ejection fraction, for somebody who's dying, your ejection fraction is 10%. Mine went down to 12. So I was on the edge, but thankfully I responded to the medications and treatments and the therapy. I'm now at 30%, so I'm not out of
Oh, good,
red
good.
zone, but
Yeah,
doing a lot better. A lot
that's
better.
good. That's good, man. You're looking good. You're sounding good.
Ah, thank you, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So today on the show, now of course you've got Dragon Rage. That's on Indiegogo right now. It's still in demand,
Yes,
correct?
yes, still in demand for a couple more weeks.
Okay. And if everybody wants to go check that out, you haven't had a chance yet, the link is in the description of the show. Also, go sub to Jimmy Reyes on YouTube too while you're at it. So with the whole concept that you've got in that book, just why? What spurned that?
Well, I came into to CG via doing ink work for. I started with Rob, who was doing a book, The Replicator, and I started helping him out with some inks, and that's how I met CG. And then John Malin wanted me to do some inks for him, and I started looking at everyone in CG and started to see all the wonderful creations. I mean, everything was so unique, so different. I said, if I come in here, I don't want to embarrass these guys by going, oh, I want to do my version of Superman. I want to do my version of Batman. It's not what CG's about. I mean, CG's got so many creative people, unique ideas. And I thought, well, I need something unique, something different. I need to fill the hole in CG. Well, I mean, we didn't have, at the time, there was no fantasy at the time. So I said, all right, I'm going to do fantasy, And I thought, well, dragons. I love dragons. How about a girl who can become a dragon? So that was the first idea. And then someone mentioned to me, hey, have you ever seen Rage of Bahamut? And I said, no, I haven't seen that. Or ever heard of it. So I watched the anime and went, damn it. So back to the drawing board and brainstorm, over and over, like what has not been done, or hasn't been done in a, what I did was I just took a lot of the things that I love and I like and put it all together, made an amalgamation of something that hopefully it's going to feel fresh and new.
So what is the difference for you? What makes it fresh and new?
Well, I mean, out there I don't want to rehash like the same things, the same type of rules in fantasy. A lot of people have the rules of D&D because D&D's been around for so long. Everyone's like, well, you got to have levels of magic. You have to have this and that, rules. I'm a rebel. I'm a rule breaker. I make my own rules. So what I did was I'm not completely influenced by D&D, and I'm not trying to. It's the same thing. I don't want to make my version of D&D. So I'm influenced by a lot of manga, a lot of Western, dragons, the wyverns. I love the mythology, the Western mythology. I mean, I love all that stuff. So I started putting everything together that I thought that I loved, that was cool. And then I started to, along the way, I just started making up stuff and just throwing in stuff. And
no, you didn't, Jimmy. No, you didn't. You didn't start making up stuff. Don't tell me you started making up things, Jimmy. What is this? Like you're telling stories and you're making fictional. Oh, you can't do that, Jimmy.
No, that's not a good writer, a good creator.
You can't just make things up. What is this? Is madness.
No, what do you think? Tolkien made his own stuff up? What the hell?
I have to stop the show. I thought I had a real bona fide creator on here, not someone who's just making things up.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and the cool thing about fantasy is that's what it was, man. It's fantasy. It's use your imagination, make up stuff, And I think along the way, people kind of forgot. Everyone wants to be Tolkien.
Make the impossible possible, Yeah. Push the boundaries. Get abstract with it. Get surreal. Get crazy with it, Man.
That's right. I got jiggy with it.
Yeah. Good.
That's what I did.
That's great, man. Yeah, Paul. Exactly. If it's fantasy, it has to follow specific rules. Only if it's a certain thing that has rules. Otherwise, fantasy, it's just got to be fantastical. It's in the word.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to be fair, I mean, there are certain rules. I mean, we don't want to come in and we do want the fantasy audience that are out there that have already been bred to, to follow certain rules, and it's
Well, yeah, you're not going to call, just a cow a dragon. I mean, man, you could nowadays. I think it's
spoiler
impossible.
alert, man.
But
All right.
this cow identifies as a dragon. I guess
Yeah.
that's what it is. You got to be hip, right?
Yeah.
Whatever appeals to
Yeah.
the modern audience.
That's
But you're not necessarily going to go in there and do that. But as far as the concepts and exploring them and pushing them and introducing something new, I think that's a must. You have to do that. You have to strive for that.
Yeah, I think we should push the medium forward. I think we should continue building. Like a greats like Tolkien, and Robert E. Howard. Those guys created great foundations. But I think the new creators that are coming along, creators that will come after me, we need to keep building the fantasy genre.
Yeah,
keep adding to it.
Absolutely. And for you, now you touched upon something that really interests me because I love dragons in terms of ancient history, myth, legend, folklore. I'm not too comfortable nowadays with just relegating all of it to the imagination and the myth. I really think there was a lot of truth to what spurned a lot of these stories. But for you, you mentioned mythology and things like that, which I think is so important in crafting a story like this. Now, what was your interest in that? How did you get involved with that kind of a thing?
Well, first it all started with my mother's a retired pastor. So when I first heard about dragons, it was in the Bible, in Revelations. It talks about in heaven there was a great red dragon with 7 heads and 7 crowns upon each head, and I went, oh my God, what is this? Because the only things I had seen as a kid was like Pete's dragon, stuff like that, and I thought,
yeah.
Dragons are real, because I believe the Bible, and I'm like, oh my God,
dragons are in everything.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So, growing up, I started to gain an interest in them, started to research more, and find out that dragons go all the way back to Mesopotamian. They're in the art, that archaeologists are finding and discovering, and all throughout the world there are different types of dragons. And
yeah,
I go, wow, they didn't have the internet. How did they spread the word of a dragon?
Yeah. Maybe they jumped on one and they flew over to the next country and they were like, "Hey, dragons exist!" And then they go to the next country and then who the hell knows? But
it was Uber before Uber,
right? Yeah, just jump on a dragon. Falkor, never-ending story.
Yeah,
and then there's
small fee,
There's all kinds of dragons. Some are ferocious, some are protective, some are very greedy and to themselves, and some are luck-filled,
Some are guardians.
Some are these wise, respected elders that taught and helped out human beings. There's all kinds of different things revolving around these various dragons. It's not just the dragons of the Middle Ages.
And
where
today
they're all just gonna...
The new dragon is now a cow in Dragon Rage.
Exactly.
Daisy the dragon. Yeah.
Evolution before our eyes. Spicer, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Says, what's going on, Brother Pete? My GF loves dragons. So automatic buy from me. Best of luck on your campaign, Jimmy. And Casey, King Cryptid rules. Thank you so much, Spicer. Appreciate that for the support for both of us.
Yes,
and again, check it out. The link is in the description of the show. We're going to be showing the campaign off more towards the second half of the show. But as far as these dragons go within the Bible and within all kinds of ancient history, folklore, and everything, I mean, these were treated not necessarily as stories by people. These were treated as a recounting of actual events. And that's what I find is so interesting, is because it's not necessarily treated in a fictional capacity. It's treated like, no, this is what happened. It's the same story that if you went outside and you were walking your dog or whatever, and you're just talking about, hey, I walked my dog today and did this and that. It's like the same thing. Hey, I walked my dragon today.
You got to stretch their legs, man. They get cranky. You don't let them out.
Exactly. You got to let the circulation.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me about that, because people then dismiss it and they go, "Oh, primitive and this and they just didn't know any better." Meanwhile, like, they did a whole lot of things that we can't even replicate today, but it's primitive.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about, like I love watching documentaries. I'm a big documentary nerd, and I watched them while I work. And one documentary showed there was a small crocodile that lived in like caves and canyons that had water and stream underneath that went extinct, and they had horns. And this is real. This is like they're discovering and finding all the fossils and bones of these crocodiles.
Yep.
And I went, holy crap! Like, I mean, come on, man. That if I saw that, in the 1500s, even before that, I would have been dragon. You know what I mean? Like water dragon right there,
Yeah, and of course, people go, oh, maybe they came across fossils and dinosaurs and things like that. But who's to say? Who's to say that they weren't? Because it's like fossils aren't just sitting there outside in the backyard, just on the top. You know what I mean? Like there's like millions of years of of dirt,
weathered and
everything, and on top of these fossils. You don't just like walk along one day and you find this completely also intact skeletal fossil of a thing that appears to be a dragon. So that's the other part too, where it's like, well, obviously things like this have existed, but it makes you wonder even did certain dinosaurs still exist for a very long time, and those were the dragons people are talking about, and it's interesting.
Yeah, the word dinosaur was made up later on by a couple there was an archaeologist couple, and that was brought in the late 1800s. But before that, in China, they had discovered dinosaur bones long before that, but they were referring to them as dragons. So it was always referred to as dragons. It was later changed in the 1800s to be dinosaur. I guess you could monetize dinosaur a little more than dragon. So, they're smart business people.
Yeah, bring in the Latin aspect of it for classification.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic to me, and just the fact that there's people that are said to descend from dragon lineage as well, and I mean even that's like I wonder. Now
I've met a couple of cranky women. I got a few ex-wives that I would
fire breathing.
Yeah, fire breathing, exactly.
Man, oh man. Well, I had a joke. I'm not going to use it. So as far as your story goes, that's what's kind of interesting to me, is because that aspect, again, I'm really fascinated by the whole concept of the people who descend from dragons. There's specific rulers in history who defined themselves as, I descended from these dragons, so I'm fit to rule. And now if you did that, right, imagine, Jimmy, you go out into the middle of wherever you live and you're like, people, I descend from a dragon. I rule over you. I am fit. I don't think that would go down too well. So, you might get some people that stare at you. You might get some people that walk by. Maybe someone laughs. I don't think anyone's going to be like, yeah, the dude's got a point. Yeah. So I think that's the craziest part, is because to me, it seems like something actually had to have occurred that made people bore witness to this whole thing, going, yeah, I think that guy is related to dragons.
Yeah, I can see a similarity.
Yeah, that dragon next to him kind of proves it, and I don't think I'm going to really question that. So, yep. So that's what's interesting about your book to me, is you have these people, you have dragons in there. You have this fantastical element. Now, did you do any research? Was that part of it as well? Were you looking into lineages and part of history where that was a thing?
Well, for me, I'm a visual storyteller. So I was just thinking of like, what's the coolest looking thing? I was letting my imagination just go crazy. And then luckily I have a very nerdy friend named David Philpott, who's a fantastic writer. And what he did was he grew up in D&D. He grew up in fantasy. Mm-hmm. So I just let everything go wild, and he organized everything for me. And he's the guy that kind of said, well, some of this stuff you do have to follow rules. So we're going to base some of this in some of the known history that's out there. So it's because of him that he really helped me out a whole lot. Me, I'm that kind of guy going, I descend from dragons. And you guys are going, he's off his medicine again, Jimmy's off his meds. and Philpott reeled me in, and he's the guy that organized it all for me.
Well, Michael wants to just proclaim allegiance that he would join the dragon cult if you're the leader.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank
There you
you.
go.
Turns out it's not dragon scales. It was just eczema. I'm sorry. I don't believe I'm a dragon anymore.
They got a couple of different medications I see on the nightly TV.
Yeah.
If you'd like to treat that.
Yeah.
But maybe they're just trying to tame the dragon within, right? Maybe that's what that is. Who knows?
Yeah.
That maybe that who the lineage descending. Who knows if that's a thing? And if you get people the DNA and you test it, and I'm deep diving here, so just bear with me. And you test it out, and you're like, eczema is a condition of your human DNA trying to fight that dragon lineage that you descend from. Not quite reptilian in the mindset of an evolved humanoid reptilian, but maybe all these people are some kind of royalty, and they just I mean I don't know how does any of this stuff really truly come
Yeah.
about after
I
millions
mean,
of years.
If you have eczema and halitosis, you might have been a dragon lineage. That hot, fiery breath.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah,
I think you're onto something, Pete.
I think I am. I'm either onto something or I'm on something, but I know I'm not the second one right now. That's for sure. But yeah, that's why I'm so fascinated by all of it, because it makes the mind wander. It makes the imagination stir. And when you have stories like Dragon Rage that come along, I think that's a really good direction to go in terms of exploring this sort of topic, because it is relatively, let's face it, it's done to death, right? They've explored these kinds of things. They've used dragons here and there, and they're stereotypical at this point, But your kind of story, and I'm gonna bring up the Indiegogo for a second so I can have a visual for people. So here it is. This is Dragon Rage: The Crown of Fire, and right now this is on Indiegogo in demand. And your kind of story, I think it's one of those things where you're combining elements of fantasy, obviously, but you're also injecting something that feels pretty unique to it. And that's difficult to say in the fantasy genre. It usually all seems just like, you toss everything in a bag, you mix the bag up, and you pull something out, and you do the fantasy bingo card. But this one, it's interesting because of the fact of your usage of the dragon in folklore and myth, and you're combining various elements with the stuff we know in fantasy. And you're getting something completely unique, I think, over here. At least I haven't really seen much of it. I think it would make an awesome video game.
Yeah, I think, for one, when I introduced it to the audience of CG, I didn't do as good a job. I don't think they were able to realize the challenge to create something new and different in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a big challenge. But yeah, on top of that, I mean, I didn't go into this going, well, I want to make a video game, I want to make a movie or a show. I just thought, I want to make a comic book for myself. I want to make something that I love and that I enjoy. And I just started bringing in, just let my imagination run, with wherever it would go. And it's evolved. It's actually taken 2 years. I released the first version of Dragon Rage that I mentioned before. It was like a young girl there that could turn into a dragon. And I thought, no, that's been done. I don't want that. So I started brainstorming as I was working as an inker for doing ink work in different various CG books. I just kept this in the back of my mind, living in the world of Dragon Rage over and over, just thinking, what would be cool? What would be different,
Mm-hmm.
And came up with some really great stuff. And I'm a big, Herbert, creator of Dune, George Lucas, creator of Star Wars, and all this different stuff I just took. I love the... in Dune, they've got the witches, the little like Sisterhood of the Witches kind of thing, and then you've got Jedi in Star Wars. So the characters that I'm going to introduce here in Dragon Rage, you can kind of think of them that way, as like Jedis, with special, unique abilities.
And they have their own order?
Yeah, they have their own order. I mean, they were basically fighting for the monarchy at one point. And a lot of this is influenced back going to the Crusades in our actual history, who then later on the warriors for the Crusades were then later on hunted down and by the church itself.
Yeah, See, this is the thing I'm talking about. When I can't fully buy into it's just a figment of our imagination, our historical imagination when they say certain things. Because even look at the story you're crafting, right? It's the same thing with the story. I'm crafting the story. Everybody else is crafting. We're all inspired by things, and we're all largely inspired by things that have occurred within history. So even if you're creating Dragon Rage, a work of pure fiction, it's inspired by all of these elements that are tied into history, tied into things that have occurred. You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I find is so compelling, to dismiss it all as just a pure work of fiction or completely misunderstood, accounting of events. Man, I think that's so short-sighted. I think if anything like that bears to. I look at that and I go, "Yup." As soon as I hear someone do that and be dismissive, I'm like, "Yeah, that's because it's true."
You know, and as well too. I mean, going back from history, I mean, there's been a lot of like a political. There's a lot of politics inside the story of Dragon Rage. You know, they're battling for land. They're battling for power. You know, there's different rulers out there, and some have, you know, like they say, like, how do you know who the hero and the villain are? I mean, sometimes the villain believes he's doing something honorable, but it's just not, you just don't view it the same way that villain does. You know, he thinks he's doing good and you view it as bad. So it becomes the opposing side. And that's in the world of Dragon Rage. You know, there's two kings battling for power in this story. And it's really which one really is the bad guy, you know, and that's really, I think, for the readers, you know, to decide and figure out.
Now, I'm guessing this isn't set on Earth, right?
Yeah, it's in its own land. We've actually named the land and the regions, so it's in its own world.
If you had to call it a certain period of time, would it be future from today, or would it be a past from today?
It would be past. I mean, a lot of this is definitely would relate to medieval times, and the Dark Ages. You know, where a lot of history wasn't recorded, but there was a lot of superstition, belief in magic, and there wasn't a whole lot of technology around. So that's the world of Dragon Rage.
So no selfies or anything like that, no smartphones.
No, yeah. There was no TikTok. The world was wonderful. No TikTok.
No variant cover with dragon selfies.
yeah. No. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, that's an idea right there.
No, don't do that, Jimmy. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Man, oh man. All right, everybody. I've been getting away from this lately. I want to get back to it. We're at the halfway point. I'm going to show a little trailer here, and then we're going to get right back to the show. Just about a minute or two. Don't go anywhere. This is Comic Book Radio, episode 73. My guest today is Jimmy Reyes. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. We're going to be right back. Just a minute or two. Don't go anywhere. Look at that.
Wow, that Blood Realm thing you've got going, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rob Geronimo's great with that, with Blood Realm. He's got 12 issues out right now. Number 13's coming out soon, and yeah, check it out.
I'm going to have to get that. It looked great. I was like, wow.
Right up your alley, man. It's like dark fantasy and a little
I
bit of
love it.
horror aspects in there, the gothic element. But yeah, big time, crazy, entertaining book. You know,
It kind
he
of,
makes stuff up too, just like you.
well, I kind of had like, yeah, like me. Yeah, he's definitely on meds like Jimmy. We might share the same meds. Who's that guy that created the Cthulhu, and it had that feel, that
Oh,
genre.
yeah, Cthulhu. You mean Lovecraft?
Lovecraft. It had very
Yeah, yeah,
Lovecraftian fantasy vibe in there. And it was great. I like it.
yeah, yeah. I think you really dig it. But yeah, Sooner says I need to check this out. Yeah, go check out all of it. It's good stuff. And Travis says Dragon Rage 2099.
Maybe you got confused. That was Blood Realm. That wasn't Dragon Rage.
Man, oh man. So with Dragon Rage, let me go and check out what you have here, because you do have something that you are sharing with me.
Yeah.
And let's see what that's all about.
Well, I started Dragon Rage 6
Let me
months ago, and like I said, during that time when I had the heart failure, before that, afterwards, I came back and I looked at my artwork and said, "No, man, it's not good enough." So I went back and I'm redoing the entire book, and
Oh wow.
I'm only got about 6 more pages to do, so I'm worked pretty fast. But so this is a new updated characters and new updated artwork right here. So this is the opening, one of the splash pages. Here's some more rendered artwork. If you can see the type of rendering that I'm doing. This is just in pencil. I haven't rendered it yet in ink, but I've got some. These are some of the characters.
So you're working traditionally? Are these all scans?
No, this is digital. I work
Digital. Okay.
in Clip Studio Paint. I was a traditional artist for a very, very long time, but I've decided to, I'm hip. I'm cool with the kids today. Is that what they say? Hip, and I'm keeping up with the technology. I'm all over the interwebs and all over the FaceTalk and all those apps and stuff.
Do you like working digital as opposed to traditional?
Yeah, I really do. Digital really saves me a whole lot of time in here, in the fact that I can draw something. I tend to draw really small, so I'll draw a character really, really tiny, and then I can stretch it out. And drawing smaller for me as an artist, it's much easier, because then I can see the drawing as a whole. I can see everything, all the proportions all at once. And then when I was drawing on 10 by 15 image area, traditionally, I'm drawing pretty big, and I'd have to stand up and kind of like take a different vantage point to see if everything was working out. And if it didn't, I'd have to erase and redraw everything. Digital, I just have to select an area, and I can reshape it real quickly and just go, I drew his head a little too large, shrink it down just a notch, and it saves me so much time.
Do you ink it digital or traditional?
No, I ink digitally as well. Yeah. Created all my own brushes and everything, and to give it a real traditional look.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah, and then here's I went ahead and censored this one, but in the book it is like, if you ever seen Game of Thrones, or if you've ever watched Outlander, the TV show, somebody mentioned that their girlfriend really likes dragons, so maybe they've seen that show Outlander. But in Outlander, it's very mature fantasy. I mean, for some reason, people just seem to go, boobies makes them giggle, or they get shamed. Just, oh my God, it's so shameful. But, in the story, there is no gratuitous nudity. It's really all for the type of characters. It's all part of the story in there. It's really not just, it might appear that way when you're just looking at it, but when the words are on there, you'll kind of figure out who this character is, why she doesn't really care about being exposed. You go to Africa and there's tribes. You know what I mean, out there, and you're not going to shame them into putting on a T-shirt. It's cultural. So that's one of these characters in here.
Yeah. Like if that's just how they are, that's how they are.
Yeah. This is how they are. But you kind of get to figure out who she is. She's an important part of the story, as one of the motivations as to why there are 2 different kings. One is a king who's a man king who rules over the kingdom of men, and then one is the king of dragons. He's a dragon. So you kind of get to figure out who she is in relation to the king of dragons and why she's with him. She's got a great backstory in there.
What's her name? Did you mention it? I forgot.
No, we haven't mentioned it, but my sister is named Lindora. And I always thought that's a very unique name. It's very
Your
cool.
sister's named Lindora?
Yeah.
And you're Jimmy?
Well, I came so long after. I got so many siblings when it came down to me at the very end. This is the true story. I was born in the 70s. Jimmy Carter was running for presidency.
Oh, it gets worse.
Yes. My dad looked out the hospital window when the nurse was like, well, what are you naming this one? He looked out the window, saw a bench ad that said Jimmy Carter.
I'm so sorry, Jimmy. I'm so sorry. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord.
True story. I'm named after Jimmy Carter. My dad was...
What's the other siblings? What are their names?
Well, I have. We're Spaniard.
Yeah.
My father's Spaniard, so one of my older brother's name is Luis, because of Luis is the Spanish version of Luis, and my other brother is Guadalupe.
Okay.
Like the Guadalupe and you Catholics pray to the Mary or whatever. That's his name. Yeah, and then when it came to me, I'm Jimmy. Yeah, my dad looked out the window. He's like,
He's like in a panic. Jimmy.
yeah. He's like, I don't care. I'm lucky that you didn't name me Exit. You look up and see the sign.
Oh my Lord. Yeah. Or Greyhound.
Yeah, Greyhound.
Although I don't know, that's kind of cool. Greyhound Reyes.
Greyhound Reyes. Yeah, that might have worked better. Thanks, Dad.
Wow. Lindora. I like that, though. Okay.
Yeah.
I totally derailed your story with that.
No, I like rabbit holes. They're interesting and fun, I like chasing the rabbit. Sometimes they lead us to magical places, But I like the name my sister has, named Lindora. The story behind that, real quickly, is that my grandmothers were feuding over the daughter. They were so, because when in Spanish culture, mothers named their daughters after them or after the grandmother. They passed down those names. Both grandmothers were feuding. So what my mom did was said, all right, to stop the feuding, I'm going to combine your names. I'm going to take Lynn from yours, Dora from yours. There you go, Lindora. And that's how she came up with the story. Way cooler than I saw a bench ad,
That's Lindora is magical too.
So I'm naming this character after my sister.
Even Carter
Lindora.
would have been better.
Yes, yeah. See, I don't know where I get the creativity from. Obviously, not my father.
Reyes. Carter Reyes doesn't take no S from nobody.
Nobody. That's right.
And Greyhound Reyes is serving 10 to 20 right now.
Yeah. The Greyhound. I think that would have really established where my future would have been. I would have been much more tattoos.
He's been everywhere, man. But man, oh man, that's a great story. So I love that. So this character, that's her name, is Lindora.
Yeah, I've just pitched that to the writer a couple of nights ago. But I'm the creator, so he'll go with whatever I go with. But I thought, it's I want unique names. I want names that people really can't place in history. I don't want names like Robert in the book. Nothing. If you're Robert and you're interested in backing this book, I love you. I love that name, but not for the book. It's a fantasy book, so I want to make up names. Like I love what George Lucas does. Kylo Ren. He didn't do that one, but he Obi-Wan Kenobi. Things like that, and you go, oh, where's that from? That's interesting. Yeah. So I've made up a whole lot of names in this story, things that aren't used in traditional fantasy. So the names are going to be different, unique. And my sister has a unique name, so I go, hey, there's one right there. I could just take that one. Now, when this book becomes successful and it's a movie later on down the line, get ready for the headline, Sister Sue's brother for using her name in...
He'll be like McFarlane with his old friend.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, Paul. Carter Reyes. It's a 50s LA detective name. Yeah, good noir name.
Oh, good noir.
Carter Reyes.
Yeah.
He's going to get to the bottom of it. Carter Reyes.
Out of all the offices In this city, she had to walk into mine.
out of all the out of all the benches on all the streets of the world.
She had to sit on mine.
Jimmy Vader. There you go.
Yeah,
Get
but
that.
I love my last name. Reyes is from Spain. It means kings. We have a family crest. Here's the sucky part about my history. Reyes, the reason they were named Reyes and kings is because they were wealthy. They were very, very wealthy. So Reyes, if you're living in Spain and your name is Reyes, more than likely you come from money. I'm Reyes in America. So my father had 5 kids, looked outside at a park bench, Tells you how rich we were.
That could be the name of your autobiography, Raised in America.
Raised in America. Yes. That is great. That is great.
Yeah. Now, in the crest, is there a dragon? I know in a lot of the crests there are.
Oh, no. In ours, it's a lion.
Ooh, a lion. Okay.
Yeah. Which is also
too.
a king. He's king of the jungle. So that's what the logo of my publishing banner is. It has a dragon with it has a lion with a crown on it.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Very
so
nice.
it goes back to my family crest, but I just, changed it up.
I love that. Yeah, tying in the history there.
Plus, people that back in the book, you're my kings. You're my kings and queens, You're
Absolutely.
supporters of Dragon Rage.
Man, oh man. I'm loving this. I'm loving this deep dive into your personal history as well, too, Jimmy. That's fascinating to me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of stuff I didn't know that now I know, and I feel better for it. I feel like I'm enriched.
That's what I'm here for. I want to enrich everyone's life, Usually it's with laughter. They're usually laughing at me, but.
Poor Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy's a good dude. He's a talented dude as well. And if you guys, again, haven't checked out Dragon Rage, go for it. It's on Indiegogo. The link is in the description of the show. I'm going to give it a quick refresh. So it's at currently 32,710 with 538 backers on board. And as far as the campaign goes, any idea how long it's going to be in demand?
Yeah, it's scheduled to fulfill in November. I did lose about a month and a half due to health issues. I should still be able to fulfill in November. Most likely, it'll be pushed back to the end of November. As far as in demand, I'm thinking because I know that it's you don't want to close out a campaign in November during the holidays because people have other things on their mind. So I might be able to push it all the way back to the middle of October. Which is still about another couple of weeks, there. But I really, feel that, this is going to be one of the great books that CG can be proud of. One of the books that independent, creators, fans of supporting Indiegogo campaigns can be really proud of. It's got a great story, amazing art in it, very unique characters that are interesting. And I feel that it's going to go under the radar. Luckily there are 538 people that have, said, hey, I'm taking a chance on this. Yeah. And I know that they're going to be the ones that are going to be so happy that, and satisfied that, hey, I'm glad I backed this book. But there's going to be so many others out there that are going to go, oh man, I missed out, in Dragon Rage. And that saddens me. I think, man, that's
you're not printing extra for a future campaign or anything like that?
Right now, no. I'm just printing up a little bit over. When I say a little, I'm going to print maybe like 10 over what the for the backers, just in case of damages and stuff like that. Only because my campaign isn't. It's a very modest campaign. It didn't raise the high number up there that other campaigns, like the bigger campaigns, do. So a lot of this, really to be honest, I put so much money back into it. I'm giving back, like that box right there. That wasn't in the campaign. I just decided, you know what? Backers who are backing the Give Me Everything tier, I don't want to package their stuff and cram it into a Gemini flash mailer. You know what? They deserve something unique. So that's their mailer. I made a bigger box. I can put everything in it. It isn't all crammed up. And if you want, you can even store that on the shelf, You have a nice, unique mailer. So I threw that in extra. I've thrown in poly mailers, I mean, everything. I even bought bags and boards from Gemini to make sure I got the quality bag and boards. I mean, everything is quality. When people see my crest, they see that lion with the crown. I want them to know they're getting quality. So I put all the money back in. And so that means, printing up less books for myself and extras.
Let's see. Travis wants to know, will you be putting your future products on Fund My Comic?
I don't know yet. I know it's really, this is a thing that startup companies don't want to hear, but I'm waiting to see where Fund My Comic goes, how it works out. I mean, a good friend of mine, you guys know her, Irene Starkowski, Rini. I know she's going to put up a campaign on Fund My Comic, so she'll be trying it. So I'll be watching to see how that goes. If it goes well, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm willing to use any platform. But right now, everyone's, that's backing my book is expecting it on Indiegogo. So I'm sticking with that for now.
I hear you. Yeah, we've got I guess I'll show this for 2 seconds just to talk about Fund My Comic. We've got Alternaween also on Fund My Comic. It's on Indiegogo and it's on our site. We're getting more and more people that want to back us direct as opposed to using the other platforms. Back wherever you prefer. So Alternaween, the one thing that I like a lot of things about Fund My Comic. There's a couple things that the interface I think needs a more clarity. I want to talk to Luke about it when I have the time to do so. But the one thing I don't like too much about it is that, like, you see everything here where it's like $2 plus shipping. You have to put shipping for everything, right? Now the thing is that when someone checks out, there's no option to have it combined. So if everyone wants to get this, and we've had people that do want like everything on here, they're going to be paying the extra shipping for each thing.
Yeah.
So for those that you went through and ordered everything, I'm throwing in an extra bundle. I was going to keep it a surprise, but I'm going to throw in an extra bundle of books to make up for the extra shipping cost. But there's no reason that someone would have to pay like $30 in shipping or something if you're getting everything. Maybe pay 6, 10, whatever that we're doing. But that's one aspect of it that I hope they can work on, finding some way to combine that shipping.
Yeah, that's
later
kind
on.
of similar. I mean, we have the same issue on Indiegogo, but Indiegogo will allow you to create a perk. That's why it's the Give Me Everything perk, because you put everything in there and you just pay the one-time shipping for that. You don't have to,
Yeah, and Indiegogo's got like that add-on section. It's a little tricky when you're running the campaign. It's not so bad when you're a backer. Yeah. And then you can designate what you want that shipping to be for an add-on, whether it's just a couple bucks more or free or whatever, it depends. But yeah, I want to see if Fund My Comic can kind of take care of that issue. I know that they're probably not dealing with a whole lot of campaigns from people where people are running through and buying multiple type things, but that's the only thing. Everything else I like about it. It's pretty good. And considering how new it is, I'm really impressed with what they've managed to accomplish with how new it is. I can only imagine 2 or 3 years from now, it's going to be kicking a lot of butt. So
I think so, because it's specifically for funding comic books, and it's comic book buyers that are driven there. And I think it could be, has the potential to be something big,
Yeah, agreed. And Paul says the add-ons menu is nice. The added-on tip is not so nice regarding Indiegogo. Yeah, and they used to have the tip. It was kind of always there, but then they started making it that it was actually a part of it that you had to fill out. Did you want to actually tip anything, or you have to go in there and actually manually type 0? And I don't know why Indiegogo decided to do something as stupid as that. But all of them have their drawbacks, man. There can't just be one that looks around at what everyone is doing, take the whole like don't do this, do this, and then make it a part of their own. It's always something. But I hear you on that with Fund My Comic. I like Luke. I think he's a good dude, and I think that they're going in the right direction. So I can only imagine they'll probably rectify that within a couple of months.
It's a learning situation, trial and error. I mean, with every startup company. So
yeah,
and it's right now. I mean, I'm staying with Indiegogo because they're established, and I've already established myself on Indiegogo, where this is actually my second campaign. If people don't know, I ran a campaign for Dragon Rage under Page One Comics, and we fulfilled that one. So people are concerned and thinking, hey, is this Jimmy's first campaign? Is he going to fulfill? Yeah, we fulfilled before. And I had someone else do my fulfillment back then for that campaign. This one I'm going to do myself. I want to be hands on.
Nice.
I want to make sure. I mean, my OCD is going to be beneficial to the backers, but it's going to be slow for me, But I want to go through. I want to make sure everything's wrapped. I'm gonna go ahead and put on a little bit of lipstick, kiss every bag and board for you guys.
Now, do they save $5 when you do that?
No, that's when they tip the extra $5. They get the Jimmy DNA.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see. All right. Man, oh man. I like that aspect of fulfillment, though. I do it myself, and I like the quality control aspect behind it.
Yeah. I mean, it's more. What I love about crowdfunding is that people get to meet you on a personal level. They get to support the creator on a personal level, where they're not just supporting alternative comics. They're also supporting, Pete Samedi, they get to know you, get to know your personality, and you get to know your backers, and you give them an extra, care. You get to know them, a lot of them by name. You get to know your regulars by name at least. And it's a small business. It goes back to the days of small business before corporations. And
yeah, before everyone was just like a nameless, faceless, soulless entity, and if you were the customer, you were just a walking wallet.
Yeah.
They were like, well, how can we pick that today?
Yeah.
It's just your numbers on a chart,
That's right.
So impersonal.
They've got money. How can we take it from them?
Yeah.
But this way, I like it. It's much more personable. You get feedback, immediate feedback on your creation. Where sometimes when I was working in the mainstream, I was totally oblivious. Did people like my work? How do I get feedback? And so I love this. I love that people give you their opinion. Even though sometimes you don't even ask. You don't even have to ask. That's the great thing about streaming. But it's great. The immediate feedback. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. And Paul, good point here. Says competition in the crowdfunding market is good for us. They'll have to innovate or lose our money. Lower fees, better interface, less editorializing content. Yeah, and I like seeing that with Fund My Comic, that they're entering the ring. When I first heard of it, I thought, oh boy, I don't know how that's going to work. That just seems like a nightmare and a half. And I'm sure it's not as easy as Luke makes it look. He's a very chill dude. And I'm sure that there's days where he's like, man, this is crazy. What am I doing this for? We've all had days like that, but they're making it look easier than it is. And I hope they keep continuing to grow. They're always addressing any problems that they can potentially solve, and they're always working on stuff. So I think they have a real good future ahead of them.
Wow. I think the future, though, for if crowdfunding still continues on, 10 years down the line, or even just a few years down the line, I think a lot of the crowdfunding is going to go on to individual websites. I think everyone's going to have their own site where you can crowdfund on your site and people can purchase your material. It's because it's really not that far from e-commerce. It's not retail. I mean, it's It's a contribution that people are making. They're not actually shopping, but it's still kind of very similar in the type of engineering. So I think a lot of it will move on to individual sites.
Yeah, I think it's a good place. These platforms are a good place for people who aren't as established and maybe need to earn the trust, not only of the backers, but even the trust and confidence that they have within themselves to fulfill and to get these things done. And maybe when someone's done like 2 or 3 campaigns on a big type of platform, they can go, okay, let's go over and I'll have one on my site and I'll keep it on the big platform. We'll see. And slowly but surely, I think people will move. But there'll always be a new crop of people, though, that go to the platform, establish yourself there, and that's how you'll find the new content. And then, like you said, people are going to follow you to where you're on your site. So if you're putting it up on your site and you're selling on there, whatever it may be, doing crowdfunding on there, they'll back you direct because they know about what you're doing already. There's a trust and you're confident in what you're doing and you're capable. But I think it's always going to kind of have that system in play. But I think it's kind of going to also turn a bit like the way we see in online retail, where there's certain sites that are going to become really known for that's the place you go, and then there's a division of that occurs. There's like a hierarchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm trying to do it with Comic Book Newsstand. It's a very small site, just one page to have like an aggregate. But I think we're going to eventually see either one or two sites really pop up that are very good at aggregating and have managed to have that aspect of it. And that's a necessity. It's going to become that way. This way people then can go to that one site or multiple sites if they want, check it out and see what the offerings are. And it doesn't matter if you list on your own site or on anywhere else. You can go to that one site and the link will take you to wherever it is you got to be.
And that's what I love. I mean, about the your comic book newsstand that you've got going there, because that kind of shows everybody who's already in demand or got it's for comic books that that are already ready to go, right? If you were to go through and it takes you to their website. And
no, it's for everybody too. So you could have your own website ready to order. You can be crowdfunding currently, or you could be in demand. So it's at any stage of it, as long as there's something that people can go to and they can purchase it. It's right there. So I think, I'll continue to grow it if it calls for it. I think we're at maybe 80 or 90 listings, something like that. Once it gets to 100, I'm going to start subcategorizing. But I think we're going to see, as it gets more and more popular for people to go to their own sites, I think we're going to see either, and I don't know if it'll be me or someone else, but someone at some point is going to create a really awesome site that's like an aggregate feature for everybody's stuff. And I know there's some sites that have sort of done things like that, but everyone's like sort of done things like that. We all are dipping our toe in the aggregate world. But I think the more that we all move to our own sites especially, the more that type of site's going to become a necessity. Otherwise, customers are going to be losing their minds with, where do I go? I got to go here. I got to go there. I got to check this. I got to check that, but instead you could have this one site dedicated to doing whatever, put out a newsletter every week with the new stuff that's up, and really kind of become a thing that people could base an entire YouTube out of it. They could base an entire, this is my place and purpose within this market. And doing that. And I think once we reach that level, that'll be really great. That'll be like a whole other thing at that point.
80 to 90, there's already 80 or 90 different creations out there. I mean, that is huge. I mean, if that was just left out there in the wide, vast internet, I mean, how would you find all that? So I think, your website, what was the name of your website again? It's
comicbooknewsstand.com. So comicbooknewsstand.com.
I think that's a great way to help, people can, that's like a hub, where everyone goes to find all the independent creators that are out there. At least you can find 90 different creators.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine, there's got to be something already for everyone out there, no matter what you're into. I mean, 90 is a huge number of independent creators.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, too, is that these are just people where the creators have actually submitted. So that's not even close to the amount of projects that are out there. So just giving this a quick thing. So this is all it is. It's just a very simple site. You can get your stuff listed. It takes like less than 2 minutes to do everything. Send in the cover image. And then the whole point of it is just to act like a digital newsstand. So there's tons of projects on here. And you just click on them. One looks interesting. You just look by the cover, look by the name and who it's for in terms of the genre and also the age rating. So you could just go right to it. Are you on here, Jimmy? I don't even know. I put so many projects.
We talked about it a while back. I think I think you sent me the link. I think originally I sent you the images and the information, and you said, "Oh, there's a link to."
Oh yeah. Send me everything through the site, and then we can get it up.
Yeah,
and it'll go right to it. But yeah, this is just a nice, quick, and easy thing. Right now, it's still a part and being powered by the Alterna site. So when you do type comicbooknewsstand.com, it'll take you to alternacomics.com/comicbooknewsstand. But we try to update this every 2 weeks or so based on what comes in. But yeah, I think we're going to see more and more stuff like this with sites because everybody is doing their own thing. Everybody is testing out certain places. And it's just going to become a necessity.
Yeah,
it's going to be great for everybody involved.
I mean, independent creators really rely on backers because we're not corporate sponsored. We don't have advertisers, and if we're going to be truly independent, and I mean, if we're independent, we have to be united. We have to stick together, help each other out, and a site like that is really beneficial, for the movement.
Oh yeah.
To keep creativity alive.
We have to. We still have to be competitive, of course. But the competition comes, I think, from creativity and from trying to find a way to stand out in the crowd. But the cooperation aspect absolutely has to be there. If we're so hell-bent on taking each other out or, one-upping each other in a bad way, then that's not going to help anybody.
Well, that's just mainstream.
That's
2.0.
We just create the same problem all over again. Yeah. And so far, there's not a whole hell of a lot of that. I see way more competition in a good way and cooperation in the way that it needs to be done so everybody could succeed.
Yes.
And there's no reason for it. We should all be able to benefit. And especially the readers will benefit like crazy. So I can only imagine 5 years from now, 10 years from now, be even better. Better than it is right now.
That's why people ask me, say, Jimmy, why did you go back and redraw your book? I mean, it's so much more work. And I thought, well, hey, it wasn't for me. It was for my backers. I want them, when they get the book, to go, wow. I want them to know what they're in for, what to expect. That's just book one. And this is only the second book I've ever drawn. I have been in comics since 1991, working professionally, but I spent my career as an inker. And I only penciled a cover every 5 years. And so Dragon Rage in 2020 was the first book I had ever drawn. And then I took a break for 2 years. And this is really the first, this is really the second book that I've ever drawn. And I'm learning so much. So imagine by book 2, book 3, where my skills could be, not only as an artist, but as a creator. And
even as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, running your own thing.
Yeah, thankfully, business runs business owners in my culture. A lot of people make fun of the Hispanic culture. You guys are a lot of landscapers and roofers, but we're entrepreneurs. We're small business owners, and we do very well, and that's the thing. A lot of my family owns small businesses. They own a flooring company. They own different companies, and my sister has a bake shop, and so I married a woman who's from, who's Cuban and Dominican, and her family, are business owners. Her father's a doctor, owns his own practice.
Nice.
And so she grew up that way. So we're both very business minded. So thankfully I have that. I have that in my family that I can lean on, and that's helped me out a lot.
That's awesome, man. So being enterprising and entrepreneurial runs in the blood.
Yeah, definitely. That and diabetes.
Courses through your veins.
Yeah.
And diabetes.
Yeah.
Oh, good grief.
I inherited from my father. So. Thanks, Dad.
Man, your dad really set you up good.
I know. Man.
But named after a bus bench.
Yeah.
And some diabetes is in your future.
I know. He's like, man. But I know that most creators we're creative. We just want to do the art and all that fun stuff. But when you're crowdfunding, you have to think of it as a business. And honestly, we have people like you, Ethan. People like Eric July, people that are really good business minded. Even Reenie's great. I talk with her about business, and she really knows her stuff. And I mean, you've kept before crowdfunding. I mean, you kept Alterna alive through the history of comics. You've been around for so long, so you're an inspiration to me.
Yeah, almost 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, started Alterna when I just turned 22.
Wow.
Yeah, what an idiot I was.
My God, man, you went right into independent.
I went right from college, and then I did an internship at the Barnes and Noble Production Center. And then I just went right into making comics.
You're like, well, I could travel Europe and party with my friends, or I could eat ramen noodles. I could eat ramen noodles and work 14 hours a day.
Exactly. I could work 2 to 3 jobs for 6 years, and while I do my comic company stuff, and learn
Yeah.
the ins and outs as much as I can, and that's what happens when you're a little insane. But here I am, trying to make the best of it.
Now, was it in your blood? Did your family as well give
I
you?
guess so, in some way. I mean, at least for I'm half Italian and half Chinese, and both families were obviously, like many in those regions, affected by the outcome of World War II. And so my Sicilian grandfather was like a master craftsman. Man, that the stuff that he would create and would build, ornate furniture and tables and chairs and just the really beautiful stuff. It's insane. It blows my mind, the stuff that he made. And he ran his own business on that level. And then my grandfather on my mom's side, the Chinese half, he was like a businessman, but very entrepreneurial in terms of the things that he would do. So he had like a convenience store. They fled from China because he got on the outset of like, I don't like this Mao guy, right? So he ends up leaving, and they take the family and they go to Trinidad. And he set up like a convenience store down there, one of the first ones that was in that area. And they had all kinds of different products that they sold and everything else. And they also made food there too. It was like this weird kind of hybridization.
I love those.
And so they did that for a while. And then in the 70s, they moved to New York. And eventually that's where my mom and dad met, was in New York in the late 70s. So I guess so. I guess it does. I never really gave it too much thought, but I guess it does. Because neither my mom or dad are independent business owners, but like my dad can't ever stop like tinkering. He's always got to be working on a project, So he went into like typewriter repair and whatever else, and then it turned into like fixing faxes and fixing electronic typewriters, and then fixing ATMs. So he kind of transitioned along in his career path. And my mom was working for like Chase Manhattan Bank as a secretary, but then stopped. She had kids and focused on that, and then she went back into being like a secretary again, but then went into medical billing and things like that. But yeah, they never really were like entrepreneurial. Yeah. But my dad in particular, I guess, never really stopped kind of doing whatever, futzing around for better or worse with every damn thing in the house. You ever see Gremlins, where the dad's
the inventor?
He's always making stuff that's like, what are you doing? My dad's kind of like that. He wasn't an inventor or anything, but he'd always be just inventing things around the house where you're like, it was fine.
Like he had the orange juice squeezer, and every time you try to use it, orange juice just like flies everywhere.
Yeah. He could never leave well enough alone. Some things needed fixing, but most of them didn't. And he's just always tinkering around.
I love those type of stores like your grandfather. I love when you go into the little Chinese corner store and you can get food, a bag of ice, and an oil change all in the same shop,
Yeah, and that's kind of what they had sort of going on in Trinidad. It was interesting. So for them to have it and be more of like and I'm sure he was inspired to run the business kind of the way he saw other businesses being run in the area, but making it a part of bringing some of the culture that they had too. So it's an interesting lineage. I never really thought about it that way in terms of my grandparents at least being on the more entrepreneurial side.
Yeah, I think that's what makes America great. Is the fact that, you can come in here, with very little and make something of yourself. In America, and I believe this, and some people might disagree, but, being poor is a choice in America. You don't have to be poor in America. You can make something, of yourself, and your finances are all depends on how hard you want to work. And at 22, it shows right there. You decided you wanted to get in and make a business, and you stuck with it, because this is a hard business to be in.
Yeah, and I never worked for one of the bigger comic companies or anything. I just kind of I'm like an anomaly, man. It's really weird. I never worked for any of the bigger companies. I never worked for even the independent companies. I worked for other independent creators. I did a lot of work for free for not exposure, for experience.
Yeah.
But, I knew that was the best education I was going to get. And I was like, I went to school for graphic design, but for comics, I was like, I can either do more schooling and pay for it, or I can get a free education and work for people and try to make them, make the projects with them. And so, I spent like 2 years doing that while I was kind of doing Alterna stuff and getting at least as good as I could get in terms of being knowledgeable about a wide variety of aspects of the business and the craft side and the business side. But yeah, it's interesting, man. It really is. Looking back, never give it too much thought, because it's like you don't want to wallow in it.
Yeah.
But because sometimes you're like, man, if I only knew now what if I only knew then what I know now. But you can't do that, because you're meant to know what you know when you know it, and you just got to keep on moving forward.
That's me going, man, when I broke into comics at age 18, I didn't know anything about it, and I got hired. I did a cover for Antarctic Press, and then they saw that I could also ink my work and said, hey, would you help us out with inks? So I went on to become an inker, and I go, man, if I had said no and stuck with penciling and developed my penciling skill, where would my career be today? But I'm here now. I'm drawing now.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you gotta allow yourself, I think, the ability to kind of listen to the universe when it's telling you maybe do this, try that out. Because you never know, it could take you somewhere great.
Unfortunately, the universe speaks Chinese, and I only speak English, so it's
that happens.
Gets lost in translation a lot of times. The universe is so wise, and I'm like, what? I don't understand the language, universe.
That's why it shows you pictures. Everyone gets pictures. This thing here.
Yeah, like the menu. Like, yeah, I'll take that right there.
That one. Pictures and a number. That'll help you out.
The number 19. Yeah.
There you go. Like, that one looks good. I'll follow that path in life. Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. It was great. And everybody, go check out Dragon Rage, Crown of Fire on Indiegogo. It's in demand, but not going to be in demand for too long, so you don't want to wait on it. Right now, it's at, what is it, 30? Let me bring that back up. Let's check it out. Let's see.
538 backers. I actually wasn't at 538 before the podcast. You actually helped get me up there, so there's already been a few backers.
Fantastic. Good, then. I'm glad to hear that.
I think I was at 535 before the podcast.
Oh, wonderful. So you're at 538, and you're at 32,710. So there you are. And everybody, go check it out. It's a good-looking book. Sounds like a great story as well. And Jimmy, again, thank you so much, man. Awesome having you on today.
It was great being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Spicer, and thank you everybody else in the chat too. You guys are always great. Really appreciate it. And before we leave, Jimmy, where can they find you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, I actually have my own YouTube channel, Jimmy Reyes Art on YouTube. Got a lot of tutorials that I share on drawing tips, traditional penciling, inking, and digital tips. So you guys are welcome to go check that out.
Awesome, man. Very nice. All right. Everybody have a good day. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern. I'll be having Keir Covington on the show, my artist on King Cryptid 4 and 9. And I'm going to be picking his brain about the self-taught path that he went on to become an artist. Really good dude. It's going to be a fun show. 9 o'clock tomorrow Eastern time. See you guys then. Jimmy, thank you once again. Have a wonderful day, my friend. And everybody, you have a great one too. See ya.